first is Raisins and the second is Smoke. Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Lüning, Horst Lüning. I'm the master taster of Whisky.com. And today we have a look at the Bowmore, 15 years old, called Darkest, 43% ABV. And why is it called Darkest? Well, they select casks which are darker than the regular ones coming out of the Bowmore distillery. I have a special memory to this bottle, because I remember very well when the first bottle of the Bowmore Darkest, then without an age statement, came on the market. It was in 97, and I had a bottle open when Lady Di died. So I opened this first Bowmore Darkest bottle in 97, and well, this was the same day when Lady Di died. So there is a strong tie from me to this bottle. And after some years, they said in the past the whiskey would be around 14 years old. And 2003 probably, they added this 15-year-old. They replaced the bottle by this 15-year-old Darkest. The original idea behind naming a whiskey Darkest was, forget about the age of whiskey. All what matters is cask and the darkness of the whiskey. So the first Darkest was even darker than this one. I still have this remembrance. But I'm afraid Bowmore is coloring its whiskies. So you can't really tell if those casks are really that dark or not. So I hope they do not add a lot of color, but it's written on the labels in Central Europe. And by adding 15 years to this whiskey, well, they mixed everything up. They could have omitted the Darkest. Well, there's another whiskey with 15 years of age at Bowmore called the Mariner, which has a more maritime style, more intense style, more smoky style, to compete with the whiskey distilleries on Isla's south coast, which are very, very smoky, and Bowmore, which has only approximately 35 ppm parts per million smoke or peat content in the barley is not that intense. So the 15-year-old Mariner was produced to compete with those. What's written here? Rich raisins and gentle smoke lead the way to a delicious chocolatey center. Sherry cask finished. So the first one was selected Darkest from my point of view, and this one is finished. So they changed more than just the age. Today, Bowmore changed its portfolio of whiskies. I tasted the new ones here. How are they called? The golden something and the, I don't know. Too many names, too many whiskies. And they try to omit the age now again, because the demand for this matured Bowmore whiskey is so high that the warehouses can't no longer deliver all those aged whiskies, so they have to switch over to younger ones. So probably the Bowmore Darkest will omit the age statement in the future. Matured in an inspired combination of both bourbon and sherry casks. So this is the difference to the old Darkest, which was 100% matured in sherry casks, and therefore this one is lighter. It's the final 3 years spent in Oloroso sherry cask that gives this whiskey one of the most beautifully balanced Bowmore, the rich, deep color reflected in its name and its warming finish. So this is a 3-year finishing. This is quite a lot for finishing. Typically, finishing periods range from 6 months to maximum 2 years. So 3 years is really a lot. On the eye, trickle dark amber, breathe in delicious dark chocolate, sun-dried fruits, and a telltale whip of Isla smoke. Sip wonderful cedar wood and rich trickle toffee. Savor the robust and complex finish with a hint of sherry tannin. That's marketing blur. A lot of. Wow. Warm the glass in your hands before sipping to bring out the classic Bowmore smokiness, dark chocolate and resin aromas. That's true, we will do. Sherry cask finished. Produced the same way today as it has always been, Bowmore is one of an ever-decreasing handful of distillers to produce its own flora malted barley. Well, very few, but it is said that Bowmore does not have the full capacity on their floor maltings. And the only one with the maturation warehouse below sea level, Bowmore's legendary #1 vaults. Yes, there is this wall between Loch Indal, the sea, a saltwater loch, and the #1 vaults, and from the wall water is dripping down and it's very humid, the air. The cask reside there, but I'm afraid a lot of whiskies shall come out of these #1 vaults, but, well, though that big, they aren't. So, which one really comes from? I don't know. But what really sets Bowmore 15 years old apart and gives it its darkest distinction is the time spent maturing first in specially selected North American bourbon barrels and then the finest Oloroso sherry casks. And there's a miniature of this bottle on the market, one of the very few miniatures still available. And I'm happy to have this so that I do not have to open a full bottle. No cork to smell on and no chance to have a bad smelling cork. Very dark, a little ruby color. And this ruby color has to come from the Oloroso casks because the caramel coloring typically give a more golden color. Yeah. The first is Raisins and the second is smoke. Lighter, cooler. And then there's Oakiness coming in the back, but not too strong. Well, it's 12 years in oak casks, in American ex-bourbon casks, so those must be the casks which are used for the 12-year-old as well as the other whiskies called Surf, Select, Golden something. 12 years old, and then they selected those casks and said, well, those have to be finished in Oloroso casks. Very complex. Oakiness coming up. Not too spicy, because this probably European oak from the sherry casks has only the chance to act 3 years on this whiskey. Smokiness in the taste. That's weird, yeah. Cedarwood, intense. Sweet syrup, spiciness. Oh, warming. And a lot of sherry. So this might be, how are they called? Wet-filled casks. So the sherry casks were still wet after dumping the sherry when the whiskey was filled in. Very intense. Smoky. But not this medicinal smoke, but the bonfire smoke. Yeah. Aftertaste, more or less dry. The sweetiness is gone. Sweetness. Dark fruits, plums, dates. Heavy. Very rich, full, mature Islay malt. Oh, spiciness going down your throat, which is not that medicinal and intense as those whiskies from Islay's south coast. So there is a well-rounded balance between the sherry, the cask, and the distillery character, the fruitiness. Wonderful. And on top of everything is the smoke. Wonderfully done whiskey. I'm afraid probably those whiskies will be short in short time because more and more Bowmore appear on the market without an age statement on them. So probably the availability of this whiskey is counted down to 0. Thank you for watching. There's more to come. Stay tuned and feel free to share your knowledge and your tasting experience in our whiskey database on Whisky.com.